part of us. The people closest to us become part of us. And they make us less likely to see situations as daunting in the first place. If you're a part of me, I'll see the world a little safer, a little less daunting. And our brains assume co-regulation. We don't stop to think this will be easier because you're with me. We assume there will be someone with us. That's our inherent existence. And the reason I feel this is important is that this is how the attachment perspective is revolutionizing psychotherapy and is also depathologizing individuals, our individual clients' emotional disorders. We need others. This attachment perspective moves us away from the idea that we have to teach clients self-compassion and self-regulation and depathologize their needs for interpersonal support. That we can understand emotional disorders rather as ineffective strategies for emotion regulation when there is no other to depend on. So we help people recognize what they're doing and normalize what they're doing and normalize what's underneath, what's the core emotions that are driving the patterns, because within those emotions we then have the fuel for making the changes that people need. So the Hill studies show, as Sue Johnson describes in her new book, which Attachment Theory and Practice, that foundational to EFIT, to emotionally focused therapy with individuals, is the recognition that emotional disorders are the key struggle of regulating emotion. And this quote, over the lifespan, our need for connection with others shapes our neural architecture. This need for connection shapes how we respond to stress, and it shapes our everyday emotional lives. This need for connection is what drives the interpersonal dramas and dilemmas that are at the heart of our lives. It's how we respond, the strategies we develop to engage with others and with ourselves, with our emotions, with life in general, that shape our suffering. So in and of themselves, the strategies that people develop to cope, particularly when they don't have others to turn to, they're not negative or problematic strategies. The problem, or the suffering that so often results, is when the patterns become constricted. Rigidity is the problem, when there's no option and when there's no flexibility to respond differently, even when the context changes. So even when there could be interpersonal support available, people continue to push everyone else away, for example, or continue to hyperactivate to the extent that no one can meet their needs. And I love how Bowlby has said emotional disorders are disordered versions of what is otherwise a healthy response. So hyping up, turning up our panic, or shutting it all down and ignoring it, those aren't always bad. They aren't always unhealthy. But if that's what happens all the time, out of context, they become the problem. So we know that relationships can be huge resources. They can be optimal sources of emotional regulation. The evidence suggests that attachment figures, including relational partners, are actually incorporated into our neural representations of ourselves. And others become part of us. And as they do, they help form our sense of self. They're resources that promote survival. They lighten the load and help us to regulate emotion.